Let's make a Flesh and Blood deck. It's enough waiting. We will be opening Armoury deck Azalea. Why are we opening Armoury deck Azalea? Because this deck has lots of options straight off the bat. It is flexible into lots of different heroes, has strats straight away that are available to it, like Red in the Ledger plays, Strong dominates, and a very important fact, it has Arcane Barrier, which is going to be a huge problem that we need to deal with immediately. How do you open these things? Target Totalizer, destroy this whenever an arrow with an aim counter hits this turn, draw a card. Card I would like to replace pretty much straight away. Line it up. Your next arrow attack this turn gets +3. You may turn a face down arrow in your arsenal face up. If you do, put an aim counter on it. Stone Rain is really important. If this has an aim counter, it gets Dominate, and when this hits a hero, they banish face down a card from their hand. At the beginning of the next end phase, they return it to their hand. The disruption really is the strongest aspect that we have as Azalea. Sharpshooters, destroy this, put an arrow from your hand face up into your arsenal with an aim counter, go again. Flight Path, attack reaction, destroy this, target arrow attack with an aim counter gets go again. And Hidden Agenda, turn a face down arrow in your arsenal face up, gain a pitch, at the beginning of your end phase destroy this. Arcane Barrier 1. Our girl, Azalea. Starting with a Death Dealer. We are probably going to be sticking with Death Dealer most of the series. Red in the Ledger, straight away one of the most important cards that we're going to ever pull. This card is going to be important in shutting down Rude Blades, important in shutting down ninjas, and stopping warriors. It is going to be probably the workhorse of this whole series. Barbed Undertow is one that I'd love to make work, but it's hard. It can be really hard to get this one to go off, but I think I have faith. I think I believe. Stone Rain, Bolt and Shot, hugely important, great for going wide. Drill Shot, Infecting Shot. These series of outsider shots also going to be very, very important. Having the ability to disrupt the opponent in any way is going to carry us a long, long way. I don't believe that this deck has Frailty Shots, which are probably the strongest. It really is frustrating against the right deck to hit them with a Frailty at the right time and protect yourself for a lot of damage. Sleep Dart is extremely important. Finding a hero that relies on their ability and being able to prevent that makes a world of difference. Ravenous Rabble, Viewing off the top, Laced with Blood Rot. These are basically equivalents of Sharpened Steels for arrows. Just the +3 for free is very important. The 2 block is nasty, does not feel great, but we're just going to have to play aggressive. Laced with Frailty, like I said, Frailty is very important. Laced with Inertia, it's really good to have a full playset of these. Very strong straight away. Point the Tip. Target face of arrow in your arsenal gets +3 until end of turn. Put an aim counter on it. We'll see how an aim counter build goes. It's really going to depend on playing around with it. Read the Glide Path, important for consistency, and like I said, it's another Sharpened Steel, it's another +3. Scour the Periphery, it's looking at the top, but it's probably one that's not going to last. Spire Sniping, this is important for looking at the top. Line it up, very important, very strong. More Glide Path. Memorial Ground in yellow. Good recycling, probably does only need to be a yellow. There's only one arrow that comes in a different color, in a different price. And we're probably not seeing that one for a good while. Spire Sniping again, Knock the Death Whistle. Really, really good for making sure that we can consistently hit whatever we need in a certain situation. It's going to make our deck flexible, it's going to make it tailorable to any situation that we want, and it's going to help a lot. We've got one Armoury deck, but we want to build on it. We want to be adding something to really give it some spice. So we're going to be opening History Pack 1. The first pack, History Pack 1. Why History Pack 1? We will be looking for a good variety of arrows. We could be looking for more sleep darts in different colors if we want to go that route. But there's a lot of generic stuff in there as well. That's going to be really, really important. We've got defense reactions. Fate Foreseen will be huge. Fate Foreseen, being able to look at the top card of the deck, decide if we want to keep it there and play into it the next turn, will be huge. On the high end, we can be looking for things like Command and Conquer and E-Strike. Get really, really lucky. Just solid generics that will help us out. We can also look for Remorseless or Endless Arrow as Majestic in the set, not as a super. So that can not really affect the pull rates, but we'll see what happens. And on the very, very high end, we can get either a Tunic, or we can ruin the series straight away and open a Skullbone Crossstrap. Crush Confidence, Surgeon Strike, new Sleep Dart. In a red, we already have the playset. Red Fate, oh my god. Fate Foreseen and a red in the ledger. How many, did we only get one red in ledger? That's actually crazy. Actually getting 2 red in the ledgers. That's really, really good. I actually did not expect that to happen. Next one. Only 10 cards in these sets because it's not draftable. Ridge Rider Shot is nice, more ability to opt, and it's just a red arrow, so worst case it's block 3. Vest of the First Fist, don't think that we're going wide enough to justify using that. Whisper of the Oracle, opt 3, go again. It's a block 3, so this might actually get some use. This might actually be quite important if we feel that we are not consistent enough. Tempo, Debilitate, Primeval Bellow, Zip Hit, Read the Runes, False Vault, Razor Reflex. I think that this one could be really important. Have you ever been in a situation where you got hit with a Razor Reflex that you weren't expecting? And it's going to be extra, extra nasty when it's chasing up a red in the ledger. Because Razor Reflex will apply for all of our arrows. Out for Blood, Big Tap, Recurromp. Headshot. Headshot is a card that has been mostly power crept. It is damage, for sure, and we might need it. So it's nice that it's in red, but it does not have a very strong effect on it. I think it's outclassed by other things. We already have the playset of Ravenous Rabble. Yellow Fate Foreseen is quite... we might be using that. Savage Feast, Spellblade Assault. Rising Knee Thrust, Choke Slam, Stroke Point, Searing Shot. We're getting a lot of red arrows to start with. If it hits a hero, they lose 1 life. This turns it into a 0 for 4 to a 0 to 5. That's quite useful in cases that we need damage, places that we might just be racing. You dominate into it so that they can't block it and it increases the amount of damage. Could be useful. Overloop, Scorn and Rain, Bravo, Ravenous, probably don't need any yellow, Breakneck Battery, Crane Dance, Smash Instinct, Nature's Path Pilgrimage, a yellow Sleep Dart. If we feel that we need to have more Sleep Darts, that could be very useful. If a hero that we're running into a lot relies on their hero power, could be important. Arrows typically diminish in their power though, as they go down in color. 4 is much, much easier to block than a 5. It is, say that's 1 card and a piece of equipment, or 1 defense reaction. It's still very good though, and hopefully would buff it. 0 to 60, Blood Spill, a red Pummel. if we get the 2-cost arrow, it could be funny. Harmonized Kadachi. An Art of War could have been very useful before it got banned. Overall, I think it's pretty good. Highlight definitely is the spread in the ledger, but there's some other really strong stuff in here. More sleep darts, more searing shots, and some fate for scenes, I think is important. Whisper of the Oracle, I'll think about it if we use it, but considering it's week 1 and there is not too much space, I think pretty much everything has to go in and just sideboard around. Nothing left to do except sleeve up and take it down to Armoury. To make sure that we're always hitting off the top, I'm giving Azalea this 4-leaf clover that I found last year. Now I just need to figure out how to get in there.
For the next 6 months I have a job, they don't actually come like maybe a month or two into the job, or what they'll do is if they know it's coming, if everything's passed, then they might give me the job. I think it's also that I get the actual sticker. But what are you up to?
Master Boost.
I've got gold measure.
CNC!
CNC!
So game 1 is against Kasai, which is a deck that I actually know pretty well. I won a Rotonats. I've got the gold foil to prove it. But she has a lot of defensive options that are going to make us have to work really, really hard to make any of our arrows to really get any mileage out of them. This is also where I'd really like some frailty shots, because you take their sabers from a 2 to a 1. So our opening hand obviously doesn't really do anything for us. Read the Glide Path opted revealed nothing, so it's really not much of a turn. I do find out that to play Memorial Grounds you have to have a target, so you can't just ditch it, which makes it a bit of a brick in hand, but you know, that's not great. So no arrows, just Arsenal pass for this one. One thing I'm particularly concerned about against Kasai is the fact that she has access to Take It on the Chin, which can evade our Dominates, which evades a very powerful sleep dart that I think was otherwise going to hit. With a huge block, Kasai is still able to come back with a Saber, and in this case into a Command and Conquer, which is just going to be a lot of the game really. That'll take our hand, but we've got tricks of our own, like a Dominated Red Ledger, which does manage to hit. When the hands are good, they're good, but when they aren't, there's really just not much we can do with 2 blocks and not very much else. Despite closing a pretty huge life deficit, we do lose to a Dominated Nourishing Emptiness, which is something that Kasai can repeatedly recycle, so we lose our first game to Kasai. Game 2 we play against Viserai, and this is really one of the reasons that we decided we wanted to play Azalea. The Arcane Barrier 1 in build is going to be really, really important. Especially because I know my local meta and I know that a lot of people are really on Viserai at the moment. We also swapped our sleeves for a non-glare set, just so it would come up easier on camera. We go first and consider shooting a Sedation shot for a big number, but that's just a full hand block on turn 0, so instead we decide to try our luck, and we Azalea it into a Razor Reflex, which really is probably the worst card that we probably could have hit. In a deck that can only attack from Arsenal, you can see pretty quickly why an attack reaction in Arsenal is just going to only hurt you. So that's going to be something that we have to Azalea away. We do manage to do some opting and opt into a Searing Shot, which is Dominate, which is not a bad arrow, but I think against Viceroy we really needed to see something with a nasty on hit. For us here, probably Red and Ledger would be best, but we just weren't that lucky. So Viceroy takes that damage, as you would probably expect him to. Knock does let us to Azalea into a Red and Ledger, which is not bad, but the Sink Below that he plays in response kind of says otherwise. Arcane Barrier does save life, but the raw numbers are just too high for us at the moment, and we're not really able to contest with it. So we're basically running on fumes at this point, and the game does go to Viceroy. Our third game is against Jarl, and I'm deciding to try out Whisper of the Oracle here. I think any good Guardian worth their salt is going to plan on blocking you out and making sure that they're in control of the whole game. So we are going to need to find Dominates, and we're going to need to find a lot of them. So having Whisper of the Oracle allowing us to opt, making sure that we can see pretty much any arrow that we can force through is going to matter a lot. Good news is, though, that Stone Rain has inbuilt Dominate as long as it has an aim counter. So with Point the Tips and with our arm equipment slot, we are able to find a reliable way to force through damage and disruption. Jarl does decide to take a turn 0 because he comes back with a fused Oakenhold, which is the classic elemental Guardian play. We're also reminded about Channel Lake Frigid, and that probably really is the reason that there are no ice heroes in Rosetta. But we're nothing if not survivors, so we decide, oh, we can pay through a turn or two of Channel Lake Frigid. So we end up pitching 3 cards to do anything on a turn. In response, we're hit with a Mangle, but I don't think that we care that much about our equipment. It will suck to lose our arms, but I think we can make do without them. And instead, I think that we go for the raw damage output instead. As long as Jarl doesn't come back with too many crush effects that are really going to affect us, I think that we're pretty safe. He does actually come back with Spinal Crush, which we are going to have to block out, and we don't function very well on a 1 or 2 card hand, so Jarl will follow up with a Dominated Mangle, and that will be the game. Hello. So we didn't win any games last week, but we don't actually feel bad about it. We're learning the deck because remember, this is the first time that I've seriously played Azalea since Arcane Rising, so I don't actually feel that bad, and we're learning what weaknesses we're looking to fill, so let's open this week's pack and try to fill them. This week we will be opening Tales of Aria. Why are we opening Tales of Aria? Because they didn't have Outsiders. Why are we opening Tales of Aria? There's a few generic cards for Rangers here that are going to be really, really useful that I want to have a look for. Bolton Shots, we already have the reds, but any other colours will actually be really, really helpful. At Majestic, we have Seek and Destroy, which is a +3 with a really strong effect, so that's going to be really, really good for Azalea. And what we could even possibly get is a New Horizons, which would be really strong and something we probably have to tailor the whole deck around. Really, I want to replace the headpiece that we have at the moment. I don't think that drawing a random card at the end of your turn to arsenal it is enough, so instead we want to look for a honing hood. A honing hood will allow us to have more control over what we put in the arsenal. If we feel at all resource starved, then we can arsenal a blue, bounce back to hand, swap for an arrow, or any card that we want, azalea that away into a dominate, and use that blue to pitch for it. So that's what we really want. I want to replace the headpiece with a honing hood pretty much as soon as we can. So let's open. I'm going to go a bit quicker through these since most of these are not going to apply. Channel Lake Frigid, we got kind of screwed over that last week. I love Chilling Ice Vein. Chilling Ice Vein really was one of my most favourite cards. Nothing in that pack. I'm very aware that we might... Yellow Bolt and Shot, kind of what we were looking for. Very aware that we might just run into not getting anything that we're after. I think if that's the case, we're just going to have a closer look at what we have and work with that this week. Runaways is theoretically playable. Overflex is a card that I was really looking for. I'd like it more in a red. I think 1 for +4 reload is not too bad at all, but we'll take it in a blue. Not getting anything yet. Sets back then used to be much more dependent. Ragamuffin's Hat. Draw a card, then put a card from your hand on the top of my deck. Activate this ability only if you have 1 card in hand. I don't think that is playable. The cards from this set typically are less generic. Around this time, you would only get 1 or 2 cards for a whole class outside of the elemental type. I don't think this one's happened for us. We're gonna have to come back to this one again later. But we did not find what we're looking for. Overflex, Runaways, Bolt and Shot. It's not fabulous, but I think it's workable. We'll have a look at what we've got. This week we're going to be running Death Dealer, of course, Crow's Nest, Hidden Agenda, Target Totalizer, did not get the honing hood that we needed, Sharpshooters, and Flight Path. This is all the stuff that came in the Armoury deck. We don't really have anything to replace it with yet. 3 Knock Death Whistles, really important, mostly for searching red in the ledger. Memorial Ground, recycling when needed. Don't like the fact that it's an instant and it's kind of tricky to use. I feel like it shows up in my opening hand more than often than it should, but we're going to have to live with that. We're of course running all of the laces, very important buff. Line it up. This turned out pretty helpful last week. Being able to give something in Arsenal an aim counter was pretty useful. I think that the fact that it was conditional on being able to turn it up was a little bit tricky. It made loading into it off Death Dealer not as good. I kind of in a way then preferred Point the Tip. This didn't require flipping up, so you could just fire this whenever. Load an arrow, play Point the Tip, shoot. Read the glide path. 6 of. We need that opt off the top of the deck really. There's kind of no debating that one. I think it's going to be a long time before that one gets taken out. Infecting Shot in red and blue. That's pretty important. That's pretty self-explanatory. This is really one of the damage cards. Sedation Shot. We don't have the arrows to replace this one yet. Not sure if it would get really replaced. Would like it to have a more impactful effect. I think I'd prefer Frailty over Inertia if I could, but we're not really able to be picky here, to be honest. Drill Shot. This one didn't really come up too much. It is good 0 for 4, so it's not too bad at all, but it's an arrow at this point. 2, Reading the Ledger. This really is the workhorse. Like, this put in so much work last week that we really can't ever afford to take this one out, I think. Stone Rain was very nice. The fact that you can give it Dominate off having just name counter, which is not actually that hard to get, especially with some of the equipment that we have, really nice. 3 Bolton Shots. These are the ones that came in the Armoury deck. Barbed Undertow. We did get this fired off with an effect last week. I don't think that it hit though. Spire Sniping Yellow and Spire Sniping Blue. These ones we're hoping not to ever actually fire. We just want to be able to see off the top. A blue Sleep Dart that we pulled in our entry pack last week. A yellow and 3 reds. Varies usefulness, obviously, on how good the hero is, or how good the hero effect is, but it really is kind of just an important staple card in my opinion. Searing Shot, this one's damage. Command and Conquer, really not in a position to get rid of this. The fact that we pulled this was really kind of crazy. It's going to be a long time before we're able to take this one out. For the sideboard, we've got Ridge Rider Shot. This is kind of like Spire Sniping, just opting instead of just rearranging. You probably would prefer to look at the top 2 cards and hope that one of them is an arrow, because if the top one isn't, then you don't know about the second one with a Ridge Rider Shot, but still, we're going to be using that one. Whisper of the Oracle, Ops 3. I think this one's on the sideboard so that if we're going to go against someone that really is going to contest our on hits, search off the top, be able to shoot dominated arrows so that they don't have as much of a say in it. This is going to be really for those more tanky, less aggro decks. Headshot, like I said, this one's kind of damage. It's almost outclassed by Bloodrot Pox arrows, in that it still gives them the damage equivalent anyway, but perhaps you can use this one to force more damage. Still though, do think it's kind of outclassed at this point. 3 red Ravenous and 1 yellow. This is for looking on the top and a reliable attack. We are mostly running reds, so it's probably going to be safe, but it's not like it's that hard to hit a blue off the top when you really, really need it. Razor Reflex, I think this one's still going to be strong. Being able to attack react on arrows is going to be good. Just don't make the mistake again of arsenaling it. Yellow Fate Scene and red Fate Scene. A yellow Bolton Shot, this is the one that we got from Tales of Aria. I think we'll have to go back at some point for Tales of Aria, but it just really didn't feel good to open 2 playable cards, so I think I'm going to put that one off for a while. The other one being Overflex. This one's going to live in the sideboard for now. We'll see if we need that reload and if we need that blue. I think if it was red, I'd be more tempted to play it. 3, Scour the Periphery. I don't think there's a situation where we're ever going to look at the opponent's deck, but we might want to look at our own. Would like to sort this one for a different kind of opt. And lastly, we're going to play 1 red Pummel. Are we ever going to actually pummel someone? No, but wouldn't it be funny to pitch a pummel at the start of the game and make the other person notice that, and then just have them worry about it the whole time? Anyway, I feel pretty good about it at the moment. Definitely feeling more confident about the deck this week than I did last week, so we'll get down to Armoury and we'll see how it feels.
Go up to 3. We will have it down 4 enchants. And then I will scale. Widespread Annihilation with 4 enchants, making an enchant as well. So it's going to have 4 next.
The only annoying thing about this is that it's widespread.
Yeah, when it gets
Any other one, I do not care.
I told you that people played Viserai here. We're going into our second game against a Viserai. Our last one was tough because we couldn't actually match the numbers when you're being spammed for rune chants, so we really need our worst arrows to ruin his day. This Viceroy is really keen on taking off turns to set up, like fully blocking out our drill shot to play Read the Runes, which is getting scary, but I appreciate time to search for arrows to dominate. Annoyingly, all we can find here is a Ridge Rider shot, so we shoot that for damage, but the amount of damage we're going to be hit with is not going to be worth it. We have Arcane Barrier, remember, but when it's all double-digit rune chance, why really fight it? Succumb, that'll be why. We lose our knock, which we would have searched for Red in the Ledger with, and followed with a Snuff Out, so we don't have a choice but to block it out really. We do use a knock later in the game to search for a Red in the Ledger. We search for the black border because he knows that we're doing sealed only, so let's see if we can keep the white border that we have as a surprise for later, but Rune Blades come equipped with a whole fridge nowadays, so not even the Dominator is going to get us there. Eventually the rune chance spam is going to become overwhelming, so we do lose our first game to Viceroy. Our second game is into Nu, which against Ranger is a real who's who of who can play the worst on-hit effects in Flesh and Blood. Biggest worry is Bonds of Agony, which not only rips possibly powerful arrows, but since Ranger doesn't have a weapon that actually does damage, the amount of damage you can do in a game is hard limited by the number of arrows that you can play. And if a Bond rips even 3 red arrows, we lose 15 points of damage across the whole game. I found that I actually quite like the effect of Line It Up, and we use it to add an aim counter to a drill shot in Arsenal, which actually lets us use our legs for the first time to give it go again, letting us play a Lace with Inertia into an affecting shot. Because Nu has committed to the drill shot, this one lands for us. The game starts to go on for much longer than I'd like, and while we don't see bonds, Nu is happy to block out using Oasis Respite to prevent damage and get around our dominated arrows. With only one card left in deck, Nu plays Surgical Extraction and uses their Mask of Recurring Nightmares to force us to banish a card. I think a while about this one because Surgical is going to hit here, but because we have a Stone Rain in Arsenal, we banish a Sleep Dart so that we can show Knock the Death Whistle, Line It Up and Red in the Ledger. The Red in the Ledger is bait here. I know it's the scariest card in hand, so by leaving it there we're hoping to protect what we actually want, which is Line It Up, which will allow us to dominate our Stone Rain for more damage and guarantee an on-hit. Unfortunately Nu's too smart for us here, and they definitely consider it. They do eventually pick the Line It Up, which will mean we're out of juice for this one and we lose to deck out. Our last game is against Victor, and really the less said about this one the better, to be honest. Knowing the player behind the deck, I know he's a pummel fiend, and we do get hit pretty much straight away for half our whole life from a Golden Sun. Our cards do not block well enough here. Our follow-up turn of an aim-countered Sedation shot won't hit, but we do manage to win one of the clashes from Trounce Victor blocks with, which does save us a lot of hassle. It would allow him otherwise to draw and gain a Vigor and a Might, so we managed to dodge that now. Our follow-up of an aim-countered Sedation shot won't hit, but we do manage to win one of the clashes from the Trounce Victor blocks with, which does save us a lot of hassle. While we can throw numbers, if they're not dominated, Victor is just happy to chill out and full block, and we're playing from such a difference in life that we lose to another Golden Sun. Pummeled as well, to add insult to injury. I think it can be really easy to get down on ourselves for not taking home any games in our first 2 outings, but I'm actually feeling pretty optimistic about where we're at. Over the last 2 armories, I've learned a lot about Azalea and how to improve the deck and how to play with what we do have. In the games we did play, I saw lines to make plays and learn her little tricks, and the life difference often was actually not that bad. Next week I'm shooting for a big power spike and I'm really looking forward to it, so until then, thank you for watching.